Shabbat shalom. So nice. Mevorach. I'll take a blessed Shabbat also. It's just nice to be in Shabbat. I said that before, but it feels like it's whirlwinds of everything and an onslaught of everything constantly, particularly also coming out of Purim, which is a time for us which is topsy-turvy, which actually was not so unique to Purim this year. It is actually the reality that I think many of us are feeling all the time. And I think part of that uprootedness and part of what we try to do when we find ourselves in these places, or I'll speak for myself and hope that others will join into this, is that we try to grab onto something. We try to anchor ourselves, we try to grab onto something, usually in hopes that that something is not so complicated. We're just like, just give me something that I can hold on to, because everything else just feels like it's too much. And I think often the tradition, and maybe even in a dream world, I want to think of the Torah in that way. I want to think the Torah itself for me is incredibly grounding. And when I think about it, the more I think about it, what's actually so grounding about it is not its oneness. I think ultimately the oneness of God is that grounding factor, but the Torah itself does not say one thing and is never meant to say one thing, and is actually put in front of us to give us a sense of nuance and complexity. And that's exactly what happens in our parasha. There is much that happens in our parsha this week in Ki Tisa, but one piece, one very small detail of this week's parasha is that we are given, really Moshe is given the tablets. And what we're told about the luchot, about these two tablets, is that there is writing on both sides of the tablets. It says that the engraving, potentially even God's writing, or this sense of this divine or holy language, is written on both sides of it. It says umizehem and mizeh, that it's on both sides of it. And in the Hasidic tradition, there's a teaching about this that reminds us once again that the Torah, there's not one truth. And I think that that's the most important piece. And in a world where so many people are so quick to want to grab onto a single truth, because sometimes it can just feel better, the Parsha and the Torah itself comes this week and tells us, you can't do that. And this is what the Tiferet Uziel teaches about this idea of having the engraving on both sides. He says that this means that the words of the Torah are indeed like a hammer that splits the rock. He's quoting a part of Jeremiah, a hammer that splits the rock. There are reasons in interpreting a legal passage in Scripture to say that it's pure, and there are reasons to say that it's impure. There are reasons to say the exact same thing that we would be looking at is both pure, and if somebody looked at it, they could also render and say that it's impure. And it's the same case. This is the writing on both of their sides. Zeh mizeh. This is the writing that's on both of the sides of these tablets. One person's view may differ from his friends or her friends as widely as possible, but both are the words of the living God. Both are the words of the living God. In a time when we try to grab at the single idea, in a world that is so polarizing, that tells us we have to grab one or the other, it has to be this or that, pro or anti, the Torah comes, and the tablets, the very first tablets, come to say, it's complex. There are two sides to everything. There are more than two sides. We have an idea that there are shivim panim b'Torah, in the Torah, that there are 70 faces of the Torah. We just keep turning it and turning it and turning it. And I think often that when we're moving so quickly, we don't even realize that we're losing the nuance. We don't realize what's happening to us in the chaos of the week is that what we find ourselves doing is just settling into one piece of it. And then Shabbat comes, and Shabbat grabs us out of that, and Shabbat says, no, there are actually two of everything. And this comes from the manna coming down. This comes all the way back when we were wandering in the desert, and the manna would come down, and we got two portions, but we get two candles, two chalot, two psalms for Shabbat. We just keep going. That Shabbat itself is the reminder of saying, take a deep breath and remember to be a part of this world and to hold the complexity of what this world actually is. That there isn't one, or maybe, as I said, that only one, that only oneness is God. But for all of us, in living in it and the complexity of it, what we're doing is we're trying to understand and to take out and to peel away the parts of us that are afraid of saying there can be more than one. There can be multiple truths. And on this Shabbat, as we head into a Shabbat again, after Purim, after a time of topsy-turviness, after a time where maybe it's just so simple to just turn off and turn away and try to find that one truth. My hope is for each of us in our tefillah, in our time together in community, that we can sink into the teaching of this Torah, into the tablets that we were given, the two candles, the two chalot, the two sides of our Torah, to remember that it's not only us, but that we're holding a multiplicity of voices within our own. Shabbat Shalom.